I just finished The Path to Being a Pastor, and it was so good. Just so encouraging to read something that was so practical, so applicable, big picture for gospel-centered pastoring and shepherding and what that means. And the whole premise, the first chapter, was about how the author encourages people to say, I aspire, not I am called. And for some reason, because of scripture saying those who aspire to be overseers aspire to a noble task, or sorry, that's not an exact quote. Anyways, that was just the most freeing thing to me, because the idea of a calling, well, we're called to follow Jesus, and that's about as much detail as we get sometimes. And I feel like mine has ebbed and flowed in every season of life, and right now I'm called to be a mom as I follow Jesus. So anyways, it was just really encouraging to hear someone say, you should communicate and articulate, I aspire to do XYZ, and then to place yourself in a position to let God use you. The end of the book was so good, and it was a quote from Dr. D. Martin Lloyd-Jones, and he said he was one of the most influential preachers of the 20th century. And he said, our greatest danger is to live upon our activity. The ultimate test of a preacher is what he feels like when he cannot preach. And then written about him, he said, our relationship to God is to be the supreme cause of joy. To lean upon sermons or words of testimony from others is, quote, a real snare for all preachers. We cannot lean on them. People say to me, it must be very trying for you not to be able to preach. Because of ill health at the end of his life, he wasn't able to preach. And he said, no, not at all. I was not living upon preaching. And I think that's a snare for everyone. That just hit me hard. What are we living upon? What are we drawing our source and our purpose from? And the very end of the book talks about how, the daughter of a pretty prominent preacher said, tell my brother, ministry isn't everything. Jesus is. And for some reason, that just hit me really hard about how we don't have to live upon our activity. Jesus has freed us from that. I don't have to accomplish a list of things for the Lord to be valuable unto his kingdom. Yes, there should be work that flows from faith, and labor that flows from love, and endurance that flows from hope, as Paul says in 1 Thessalonians. But it is not this to-do list. And that was just really freeing.